What's going on YouTube? So I'm standing here next to the Audi Q3, which is not only Audi's cheapest crossover, but also their brand new entry into the very competitive subcompact crossover class. Now when we reviewed it late last year, we were very impressed. However, there are a lot of new competitors coming into the market, like the refreshed BMW X1 and an all-new Mercedes GLA. So what we're gonna do is sample this latest 2020 version and see how it stacks up. So of course, like always, the place we're going to start is the exterior styling. Now it's certainly a very eye-catching vehicle, and it does come with the latest Audi design language, including the single frame grille, which first debuted in the Audi Q8. It's got that new shape, as well as the lines that run vertically down through it. Now there are a couple different versions of the fascia you can get. Most of the models are going to come with the S-Line package, and when you choose that, that's going to change this lower fascia area to be a little bit more aggressive and a little bit sportier. And then as far as your headlights, these are going to be the full LED setup, which is standard on all but the very base model. And of course, it does have the latest Audi design. Now stooping down here to see the wheels, we actually have the best looking wheel. This is the 20-inch alloy with this nice contrast design. I think it's really eye-catching. Now you start out with an 18-inch alloy on the base end, and then you can upgrade those to 19-inch alloys as well. And then as far as your mirrors, you're going to start out with heating on the base model. If you go up to Premium Plus, that's where you're going to add the blind spot monitoring system. And then if you go for the Prestige, you'll further add the power folding abilities as well as auto dimming.
All right, so walking around to this Q3's rear design, I have to say I'm very impressed by it, since a lot in this class can look a little stubby in the back, and this Q3 actually has quite a bit of the Q8 influence. Now as far as your feature set back here, we do have standard fully LED taillights, and Audi has even thrown in the dynamic turn signals. And then down here at the bottom, the S-Line is going to give you a sportier rear diffuser than the regular model. However, none of them will have exposed exhaust outlets. Now, as far as your safety systems are concerned for this Q3, I have to say I am very pleasantly surprised, since Audi does throw in more standard safety features on this Q3 than on the Q5, since you have forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection and auto high beam standard across the board. Now, if you go for the Premium Plus, that will add lane departure alert, and then if you go for the Prestige, you will have optional adaptive cruise control. Well, anyway, guys, that sums up the exterior of this 2020 Q3. So now let's go ahead and hop inside before we take it out on the spin.
So on the Audi Q3, you will find their smart entry system, standard on the Premium Plus level or higher, or optional through the convenience package on the Premium. Now I'm not exactly sure the reason behind it, but this new generation of the Q3 still has the old style Audi key with the switchblade. So I'm not really sure why, but that is the case for the Q3. Now to get inside the vehicle itself, of course there is a sensor behind the handle, so all you have to do is just grab it. And then looking inside of the cabin, as you can tell, it basically has a smaller version of the modern design language that's been rolling out across the entire Audi lineup. Now, one of the things that impressed me about the Q3 last year, and of course also this year, is that you've got a lot of different interior combinations. Now, just like every single Audi, you will have standard real leather seating, and most of the models have the choice between black, okapi brown, or pearl beige colors. But our model has the interior sport package, so that gives you the additional choices of black or rotor gray with the contrast stitching. Now, as far as the different interior trims, I'm not going to go through all of them, but just be aware that you can get aluminum trim, you can get real wood trim, or if you want to really get wild, you can add the orange Alcantara interior package, which we had last year, and that basically changes out all these accents, including up there on the top, to orange Alcantara. Now, turning over here to your door trim, it does have those same materials. So you have a leatherette across the armrest with a color contrast stitching detail. It is soft touch above that, as well as along the top. Of course, all 4 of your windows are going to be one touch automatic. And then coming down here to your seat, this is a 12-way power adjusting seat with 4-way lumbar support, and we also have a manual thigh extension. And like I already mentioned, of course, this is real leather. We have the upgraded sport seats, so we have really nice and aggressive bolsters and a unique stitching design. Now, even though this is the cheapest Audi crossover, as far as the design and the material selection, it is pretty close to its bigger siblings. Now, across your upper dashboard, you will have a soft touch plastic. Dropping down here to the middle with the interior sport package, we have a texturized aluminum. Like I've already mentioned, this can be subbed out for a wide variety of different types of trims. Now, our lower areas, they are going to be hard touch. However, along the center console here, if you choose the Prestige model, this will be padded. And your push button start is located right there. Now, there are actually 2 different configurations for the gauges on the Q3. Both of them are actually going to be digital. However, on the Premium and the Premium Plus, the standard version is going to be 10.25 inches. That's what we have. The full virtual cockpit, which is 12.3 inches and comes with the navigation and all that, that is optional on the Premium Plus and standard on the Prestige. However, this is very close to virtual cockpit, so you can scroll through a lot of different things. You just won't have the map, and you can still change some basic stuff, but it more or less is the version that's in Volkswagens. Now, coming back here to the steering wheel, it is nicely leather wrapped. You do have electric power assisted steering, and the wheel itself is manual tilt and telescoping. Alright, so let's go ahead and hop into interior storage, where I'm happy to report there's really not any sacrifice in this Q3 versus some of the bigger Audis like the Q5. So opening up the center console here, this is actually quite deep. It is a little narrow, but you do have a felt lining down at the bottom. And when we put it to the test, looks like it can nicely fit a large stack of coupons when they're folded in half. Up in front of that, we have 2 large cup holders, and then we have another really large storage area up here in the front. This will include a wireless phone charging pad as well if you choose the Premium Plus or the Prestige level. And off to the side, you have a USB Type-C and a regular USB. Now, coming back here to the shifter, this is actually still a traditional shifter, unlike a lot of the Audis with electronic shifters. Obviously, pull back for drive, bump to the right if you want to shift manually. And if you choose to have the interior sport package, which we have, that's where you'll get the paddle shifters on the back of the wheel. Now, heading into reverse, you will find a standard backup camera, of course, with active trajectory. When you go for the Premium Plus, that's where you'll also get the parking sensors. And if you want a 360-degree camera system and auto parking abilities, both of those are available if you choose the Prestige level. And then right there is going to be your electronic parking brake. Now we'll go ahead and look up from that. We have a row of buttons. I won't go through all of these, but this one does turn on and off your auto start stop, and this changes your drive modes. And then right up to the side there is your volume knob. We actually have the standard audio system that I could not find the specs for, but if you choose the Prestige level, that will have a 580 watt 15 speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system. Let's go ahead and sample the standard one. Wow, I have to say, surprisingly punchy. Honestly, it's definitely not going to be a penalty to choose that bass sound system, so you won't be missing out on much. Okay, so above that we have a traditional climate control setup. This is dual zone automatic. It's going to be standard across the board, and it does adjust like pretty much in any Audi with all physical controls right there. Additionally, we have the 2-stage heated seats. Those are going to be standard on every model. However, seat ventilation is not available. Alright, and now that brings us up here to our displays. Now, just like with the gauges, there are two different versions that are pretty similar looking. We have the smaller 8.8-inch display. If you choose to have the navigation package, that's going to add in the 10.1-inch display, which will more or less just fill out this entire shell, but like I said, looks more or less the same. Now, this is Audi's newest MMI touch response system, so it does operate like a tablet, and you have little tiles you can click between. Like I mentioned, navigation is not going to be standard until you get to the Prestige level. However, both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, those will be standard even on the base model. Now moving on up here, we do have an auto dimming mirror with HomeLink universal remotes built into it. Then you will also find a panoramic moonroof. And this is actually standard equipment, which Audi says is a class exclusive feature, and I definitely believe it because I have not seen anything in the class offer this as standard equipment.
Alrighty, so hopping into this Q3's rear seat. Now this is obviously a space that normally its competitive set really doesn't excel in. However, with this Q3, I have to say I'm very impressed since we do have plenty of space back here. Now, as far as the technical measurements, it's going to come in at 36 inches of both leg and headroom, which just place it right in line with its rivals like the XC40 and above some of its other rivals. Now, as far as behind rear seat position, I have about, I would say, 5 inches of rear leg room, and my feet can easily set up underneath the seat, so I'm certainly very comfortable, and you could fit 4 or 5 adults back here easily. Now, as far as your feature set, Audi actually has thrown in a pretty good feature set since you do have vents here in the middle, as well as down here at the bottom you have a 12-volt power outlet and 2 USB Type-C ports. Now in the center area we do have a fold-down armrest, and that houses additional cup holders. But overall, definitely a very good rear seat. Now walking up to the tailgate of this Q3, it is going to be power across the board. However, if you go for the Premium Plus or Prestige, it will also be hands-free. So just wave your foot under the bumper. And it does open right up. Now looking inside, you're also going to be very pleasantly surprised with the amount of space this Q3 has to offer, since it has 24 cubic feet behind the second row seats, and if you fold them, they're going to go to 48 cubic feet as a maximum. Now that is right in line with its major competitive set like the XC40 and BMW X1. However, that is still quite a bit behind the Q5 as you would expect. Now as far as how they finished it back here, you do have a nice carpeting along the floor, and Audi actually has given you the ability to kind of make different levels with the floor depending on what your needs are, if you want maximum space or if you want a flat loading floor. Now off to the side we do have 2 storage cubbies as well as a cargo cover up top. Now over here at your passenger seat, you do have the same adjustments as the driver's, including the 4-way power lumbar support. And in front of the passenger here, we have a absolutely massive glove box. It is nicely felt lined, and it is really surprisingly large. You could fit, honestly, stacks and stacks and stacks of coupons in here, so I'm very happy to see that. And in addition to that, you do also have a CD and DVD player, which I know some of you will be happy about. Now up top, we do have a sun visor with a mirror and LED light, and it does also detach, however, and it also does extend, unlike most Audis.
Alright, yeah, so that was our first acceleration here in the 2020 Q3. And just like I remember from our drive in the 2019 version earlier, or late last year, and that's that the power feels pretty darn good. You know, these being the cheapest crossover in the Audi lineup, a lot of times with these luxury vehicles, when you're talking about the cheapest in the lineup, they usually, you know, cut something out. A lot of times that's the engine, but in this case, you know, you really have a plenty peppy engine right here as standard equipment. So that engine is going to be a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, making 228 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque.
And they're 60 miles an hour. I really have to say though, when we first got in this, like Drew mentioned, this really doesn't even feel all that much different than what's the engine and the Q5.
It really doesn't.
That traditional 2-liter turbo with, it has around 20 more horsepower, but it really doesn't feel that much different. And I have to say, very, very impressive engine setup with this Q3.
Now the other thing I'm really impressed with right from the start is the smoothness of the transmission, especially when you're just you know, kind of cruising around at a more casual pace like most people, you know, will be doing in this vehicle. The shifting is extremely smooth. You know, you can barely feel anything whatsoever. It is an 8-speed automatic, you know, the same one used in a lot of Audi products, but it is different, you know, than the dual clutch that's used in the Q5, for instance.
And even going off of that, you do also have standard quattro all-wheel drive, as you do with any Audi product, but that's really rare in this segment, to have just standard all-wheel drive. So that's certainly something that has a leg up on the competition. You know, and this right here, this is what we're doing, just kind of cruising through the city. This is exactly what this Q3 is made to do. You know, and I want to talk about the ride quality and the noise level entering into the cabin, because, like Drew mentioned, you know, this is the cheapest way you can get into an Audi crossover. So, you know, a lot of time these luxury brands will just kind of cheap stuff out, and I have to say I'm very, very impressed with what this Q3 has done, because I don't see that it's cheaped out in the ride quality. It still rides like a typical Audi product, which is to say very smooth and refined.
Feels very solid too.
Yeah,
There's no like rattly or that sense of hollowness that some cars have.
And then as far as like the noise level entering into the cabin, we actually forgot our sound level meter, so we won't be able to get a reading on that, but I can definitely tell you this is really no louder than an Audi Q5. You know, kind of going into that, I do want to talk about the fuel economy. So this is today's airball. The fuel economy is pretty terrible. I don't even really know how else to phrase it. It's rated at 19 city, 27 highway, 22 combined, which is actually 2 mpg worse than the Audi Q5. So I'm really not understanding exactly why it's that poor a fuel economy, but it's obviously less than most of the rivals, and it's even less than its larger sibling. So not great in the fuel economy department.
That being said, we have the slam dunk as well, and we talked about it, and we think that the biggest slam dunk here is just got to be the solid feel of the vehicle and how similar it is to the Q5. You know, you don't get into this and feel like you're missing very much from the Q5 at all. But of course, you're at a cheaper price point.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's more stylish as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So that was our auto start-stop system. We'll see how quickly it restarts. Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Definitely very smooth. Audi is one of the best in the industry. This Q3 is no exception. There's one last thing to address, and that would be your handling and, you know, the overall driving characteristics. Definitely on the softer side of things, comfort oriented, as you expect. This is an urban vehicle, an urban crossover. So the steering is very light. I'd say it's about in line with what the Q5 is, but certainly very light, easy to maneuver and whatnot. As far as the handling overall, you know, it also seems to be pretty soft. That's what helps it deliver such a comfortable ride, especially for a vehicle in this size category. But there is a little bit of body roll, but nothing too extreme. But I would say it's a little less sporty than the BMW X1 that we drove a couple months ago. But overall, I am quite impressed with this Q3. I just feel like you get a lot for your money. You know, even though this is Audi's small pint-sized crossover, their cheapest offering, I still feel like you get the big boy experience still.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't feel like you're being shafted, so to speak.
Yep.
You know, and sometimes the entry-level models can feel like that, but that's really not the case in this Q3. You know, so if you're shopping in the segment, don't think that that's the case with this. Definitely come out and check it out for yourself, because I feel like you're going to get a lot more than what you think you're going to get.
Alright, so now let's go ahead and discuss the pricing for this 2020 Q3. Now, I do want to just go ahead and preface by saying this 2020 model did not increase in price over the 2019, so that's certainly a good thing. So the premium model starts at $34,700. If you want the S-Line, $36,000. Premium Plus, $37,800. S-Line, $39,100. And then if you go for the Prestige with standard S-Line, that's $42,900. And then as far as how this one's equipped, we do have the Premium Plus S-Line with a few options. So we have the Tango Red paint for $595, the 20-inch wheel package for $800, the Sport Interior package for $500, Audi Guard Protection Kit for $300, stainless steel pedal caps for $160, and then the destination charge of $950. And this one, as equipped, comes in at $42,450, which I have to say, very, very impressed with that price point. This is in the middle of the lineup as far as like pricing wise. However, there is a ton of value in here for the low $40,000 price range. And as we've said throughout this entire review, it's really not that much different than stuff like the Audi Q5. So it's certainly something you should be checking out. Well guys, we've enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the 2020 Audi Q3 Premium Plus. If you've made it this far in the video, hopefully that means you enjoyed it at least a little bit. So be sure to pay us back by hitting that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.